Hi, everyone. Thank you very much for joining us today. My name is Sarah Liu. I'm the president of INFORMS Southeastern Michigan Chapter. Today, I'm going to host this very first career talk in data and analytics seminar. Data scientist is said to be the sexiest job of 21st century. Some of you may be in this area already, and some of you may be thinking about joining us. Today is a great chance to get career advice from leaders in this area. We are honored to have David Boateng, Senior Manager of GBS Digital Solutions from General Motors. Hi. Daniel Reaume, Chief Analytics Director from Cat Digital. Hi, Dan.
Hi.
And Stephen Xu, partner of consulting firm Umlaut.
Hey, everybody.
So I will start with some questions, and then the time is all yours. So please ask a question in the chat. It will send to our Vice President, Jason, and then he will manage it. First, I'd like to start with a question for all panelists. What is your career story? How did you get to your current position? Stephen, do you want to start first?
Yeah, I can start first. Thank you. And thank you again, Jason and Sarah, for inviting me to the session. Really nice to meet everybody here. I did prepare a few slides. So Sarah, if you can go next. Okay, awesome. Thank you. So as Sarah, you already mentioned, I'm currently working with Umlaut, which is a global consulting firm. I've been with the company for 10 years, primarily working in automotive industry, but the company actually works in also mainly in the other two industry, which is telecom and aviation. I've primarily worked on some new technologies in the automotive industry, such as connected vehicle, electrical mobility, shared mobility, Industry 4.0 in the manufacturing world in there. How did I get here? So actually, I'm originally come from China. Went to school in Shanghai Jiao Tong University in Shanghai. Got my mechanical engineering degree there. Then I joined first a consulting firm. It's Roland Berger Strategy Consultants in China. That's why I kind of fell in love with consulting work. It's very fulfilling, and being able to work with various clients and help them solving different problems. I really enjoy that. After I graduated from University of Michigan, IOE, I decided to continue to pursue my career in consulting. That's where I met Umlaut, or back then it was called P3. That's how I got to today. So it's very, very exciting, I would say, journey to get to where I am today. Not like David and Dan, they come from GM, and CAT is a very well-known company. So Umlaut might not be very familiar to you. So I do have two slides. I want to quickly kind of go over who is Umlaut. So it's a global network of innovative and creative, really, consultants or engineers, I would say, working in several industries. And then you can see here I mentioned the top three. So it's been around for over 20 years. Globally, we have over 4,000 people. And I think one thing I do want to mention is that over 75% of them are engineers. And I think a large portion of that are industrial engineers. So that's very exciting to work with fellow engineers on solving problems for our clients. So we have globally over 50 locations and over 20 subsidiaries, and really has a very diversified portfolio, as well as diverse engineer consultants to work with in companies in various industry, and most of them are Fortune 500 clients. And specifically in digitization or data analytics and software, in our focus today, and Sarah, if you can go to the next slide, we do essentially is we're trying to accelerate some mobility solution innovations in the industry, really trying to enable our clients to make better decisions using data. and at the same time helping their end users to enhance the digital experience, and but also connect to different industry knowledge and really integrate those technologies to have a better solution for the clients. So globally, we have over 1,000 digital professions that includes data consultants, data scientists, and software developers, etc. And we have locations across the world on there. So that's just a brief introduction on my side, myself and the Umlaut. Welcome any questions down the road that I can answer. Thank you.
Thank you, Stephen. David, how about you? What's your career story?
Yeah, thank you, Sarah. And I really appreciate, everyone's time, and I appreciate having the opportunity to share the panel with my two friends here. I think for me, one thing I realized is that just being in an environment where we're actually having a conversation like this is, we're already showing, the initiative, right, to get better, right? So I think from my perspective, right, like we're all going to learn from each other, and we're all going to come out of this conversation better than where we started, right? So for me, I think what I'll do is I'll start with how I got here. Sometimes I ask myself I don't know how I got here, honestly, but I feel lucky that I'm here. And the reason why I'm saying that is because, I knew growing up that I loved computer programming. I started programming when I was like 10 on a Apple computer that didn't have anything except for a basic operating system, right? And so, but then I left college with the understanding that I was going to go to GM and program robots. And then my offer said that you're going to go and you're going to help people make decisions. And I'm like, how am I going to help people make decisions? I just got here, right? And it wasn't until, and luckily I had this great mentor, this great boss, and he says, hey, just stick with me. We're going to build this amazing model, and we're going to deploy it, and it's going to change the company. And it did, right? And that's when I knew what this field is all about, right? It's about helping people make better decisions with data. So, and that's, basically how my career started. And from there, I just sort of like evolved my understanding, built on top of it, really just learned everything I needed to know from really smart people. And so I've really had the opportunity to, like, now in my current role being a senior manager, we're in a really exciting organization because our mandate is to basically transform processes and stand them up with the best digital tools, right? So, think about how great of a journey that is, because you're really taking old but very mature ways of thinking, and then you're sort of finding the right integration points to use dashboards, the right integration points to use seamless data ETL infrastructure, right? And finding the great points to put in some predictive modeling to do better decision making, as well as automation, right? And making things faster and more smoother so that you have more time to do more innovative work, right? So, so I think it's a great organization. My mandate is basically to create high value enterprise level analytic digital automation like solutions, right? And so and then in addition to that, I'm also working on creating what we call like citizen data scientists. Another way to think of it is think of like your accountant, but then you stand that accountant up with the knowledge of how to create a dashboard, how to do SQL queries, how to do automation. And then they basically foster that, they foster that culture within their own community of accountants. And then essentially you scale up your services, right, that way. So, and in addition to that, we're also doing some training. And we offer some training material across the enterprise. So, and so, like I said, it's a fun job. We're going to talk a little bit more about why offering services like that is important. I've had an opportunity to work across marketing, product development, supply chain, and now finance. Some of the folks on the call, I've had an opportunity to work with, so I'm really excited to see their faces. Like I said, I had a computer electrical engineering degree. Recently, I went back to do my data science degree, and it was really exciting because the things that I sort of learned in an ad hoc way, I was able to finally get the theory and the structure behind it. So that was a really exciting journey. And then, I've been fortunate enough to be a part of some really amazing awards, and really be a part of great teams. The Boss Steering Award was the one that's it's one of GM's most prestigious awards, but it was an example of excellence, like analytic excellence, seeing a process from nothing to something to really good to now the customer's actually using it. And so there's a lot of steps in between that, and we'll talk a little bit about that later. But essentially, the idea was to basically give our marketing organization the ability to create products that align to the expectations of what our customers want, and thereby generating more share, generating more revenue for the company, and then doing it in the least complex way. So it's really exciting work. And then the things that I try to model, my motto to going to work every day, build teams, right? Because that's the only way you're going to get analytic projects done. Developing others, right? Coaching and really growing people's careers. And then lastly is delivering value, because ultimately everything we do, it's got to be for something. It's got to be to change, make an impact, and make our company, our world better, right? So we'll talk about some ideas of how to do that as we go through this conversation. So I'll give the floor. I'm looking forward to the dialogue.
Thanks, David. Dan, how about you? How did you get to your current position?
It was a long road, but I'll try to get through it in a few minutes. So good afternoon, everybody. So my name's Dan Reaume, and I come from Canada originally. I got my bachelor's degree in math and computer science at the University of Windsor. Started out in computer science, changed to math and comp sci after one day. So I knew at that point that this is going to be a route that I didn't know what the end was going to be. About midway through, I took a class in operations research, discovered that I really liked solving real problems more than proving theorems. And that got me interested in industrial engineering, OR, management science, whatever we want to call it this year or that year. And went to University of Michigan, got my degree, my PhD in industrial and operations engineering. And immediately after graduating, I joined General Motors R&D. I spent about 15 years there in various types of projects. So I worked in manufacturing for several years, worked in supply chain for a couple of years, an area called work systems with anthropologists, demographers, sociologists, trying to understand how people work, applying math to that, some product development work, and a lot of work in pricing, portfolio optimization. That's where I spent probably my last 8 years there, and probably what I love the most about it. And the cool thing about working for a large company like GM was you got to try out so many things. It's like working in an array of many, many different companies. And while I was there, I took advantage of the opportunity to keep on learning. I like to think of it as the concentric circle theory of a career. So I started out with the math, right? You can do stuff with math. Let's layer the engineering on top of that. Now I can do math that's useful. Awesome. And then I realized the useful math didn't make money, so I got a management degree so I could figure out how we can translate the useful math into something that would be appealing to executives. That helped out my career quite a bit. And then around 2006, I realized, man, some of the pricing stuff we're doing, some of the IP stuff we're doing, we're talking to lawyers and they aren't really, fully respecting us or giving us a real fair shake at the conversation. So I said, yeah, I'll go get a law degree. So I got 2 law degrees and became an attorney too, which comes in handy because if you think about it, figure out how to make profit with some great analytics, you don't get to keep it all. You got to give some back in taxes, or you can't make as much as you want to selling cars because you got to worry about hitting fuel economy regulations. What's the best trade-offs? You need to know how to interpret those rules. So concentric theory, math, engineering, business, then law surrounding it all, always comes in handy. And I can usually negotiate a pretty good deal on my cable bills too. So after about 15 years at GM, I'd risen to their highest technical rank, technical fellow, and actually got to lead the technical fellow organization. And it's not much else to do, really. I got an offer from Dow Corning to found their brand new advanced analytics organization as the director. So I jumped at that opportunity. It's a pretty cool place. All they did was silicone-based chemicals, the stuff that you pay $1,000 a kilogram for in some cases. So really exotic stuff. That was fun. Had a couple mergers with Dow and then DuPont, and then split DuPont off, and it got a little bit tiring. And we got to doing commodity chemicals. So I got an offer to work for Revenue Analytics as VP of Analytics to head up their data science area. And Revenue Analytics was founded by the guy who invented revenue management for airlines, Bob Cross, way back in the 80s. So that was cool working with a legend. Did that for about a year. And then CAT came calling. So Caterpillar, you might know it from their big construction equipment, or the mining truck like the one behind me in the picture with part of my team on it in the other picture. But I mean, they're gigantic. They actually own GM's former electromotive division. They own generator divisions, marine power divisions. It's a gigantic company that touches pretty much all aspects of life. So it was a fantastic opportunity to work for that sort of company. And better yet, I got a free hand to actually to lead, to change things, which I'll talk about in a later question. So I inherited a department of about 155. I cut that down to about 80 because I wanted to focus on advanced analytics. I didn't want to have the, the descriptive analytics charting dashboarding part as part of my org. I wanted to develop in a different direction. And now we're up to about 100, and odds are we'll probably double, triple, maybe more in the next few years. So it's great to have the opportunity to set direction, guide things in the way I think the future should go, which is an opportunity most companies don't let you do. They say you can lead, change things, and then they say, no, I didn't really mean you could really change things. Caterpillar's different. So it's a great job. And if we want to switch to the next slide, I can show you a little bit what the department looks like. So I work for Cat Digital. It's a separate technology arm for Caterpillar based in downtown Chicago. It's really kind of like a little mini Google. Got about 800, 900 people right now, constantly growing. And I had the analytics part. We also have a huge DevOps area, an applications team, a platform team, an architecture team, a portfolio team. So we're not analytics people all by ourselves. We have all the support structure we need to do to get our solutions out there where it matters, which really is a big change from where I'd been before, where we're usually struggling as analytics experts, developing GUIs and connecting to databases. Here we've got pros who do that for us. And so I split into 3 areas for projects: business analytics, product analytics, IoT analytics. Each collaborate with the others, of course, and an analytics center of excellence. And what we're doing there is we're basically serving as the enterprise hub for analytics at Caterpillar, engaging others, developing standards, best practices, and just developing this community of practice. So it's a great opportunity to meet a lot of people, work in a lot of different areas, and really move the needle for a gigantic industrial company. So it's a lot of fun. So it's a twisty journey, but I like where it's ended up.
Thanks, Dan, for the introduction. It's a very impressive journey. One of the questions I have, like, you were a technical leader in General Motors, and then you moved to the people leader area. How did you prepare yourself for this transition?
Yeah, so I'd say that probably if you think of it, there's technical leaders and people leaders. The key thing there isn't technical or people, it's leader. And what leaders do is they teach. If you think about it, if you're an individual contributor, you might write code. If you're a leader, you might do code review. And you do that whether you're an HR leader. I still randomly do code reviews to make sure things are being done properly, and do that as a technical leader. So it's more of a transition to, do you have explicit or implicit power to get things done or influence? And it was kind of a natural jump if you think about it that way. How did I prepare in other ways? Well, the business degree, the business acumen is pretty critical. Probably the biggest teaching opportunity I have is to help people understand that we can't do things just because they're technologically interesting or fascinating, or even better than anything we've done before, unless we can figure out a way to apply this in a way that'll hit market very quickly. And then we can do this iteratively. So getting the business degree, learning about those concepts about management of technology, knowledge management, as well as the financial topics, helped enormously in preparing me to take that higher level mentor role to help lead not just purely technically, but in the application of technology. The
Got
other,
it.
oh, go ahead. The only other little thing I'd add is meeting a diverse group of people. So I mentioned working with anthropologists, demographers, engineers across different areas. If you want to be a leader of a large team, you got to move around. You got to meet different people, get different perspectives, so you can learn how to interact with them effectively later on.
Thank you very much for those suggestions. For Stephen, I do have a question. So one of your key roles is bringing business for the consulting firm. So how did you get customers buy off and pay for your service?
Yeah, that's a very good question. So I think at the end of the day, we need to create value to our clients. So no matter what project we're working on, I think myself and my company, we definitely don't think that, hey, we need to, sell something to our customer, but really try to understand what our customers' problems are, and then how we can collaboratively solve that problem for our clients. I'll give you an example. We're actually working with one of the global car company in helping them improve their overall vehicle quality. So that project, essentially, we saw there was a big opportunity to consolidate their data from manufacturing to sales to post sales, that we could leverage that, generate some of the prediction on the issue that a customer may face on the field data. Because normally the field data, when they feed back to the actual warranty department or the quality department, would take over a month's time. If we could leverage some of the data we have from the
Stephen, do we lose you? Yeah, it happened to me all the time. My internet got disconnected all the time. It may happen. So do we want to maybe pause on Stephen's question, maybe get to David first? Yeah, Stephen, we're talking about creating venues for customers. I know David has experience like working together with internal customers to get projects to the finish line. And one of the challenges, like managing all those resistance. David, do you want to talk about your experience doing that?
Yeah. Thank you for the question. And if you can go to the next slide. I really wanted to, add a visual here to kind of explain this, right? So for those of us who have been in this industry, let me set some context, right? So we know that we do analytics for machines, and we do data science for machines, and we do data science for people. Machines just take what you give them, right? There's no resistance with that. But data science for people is one of the hardest things to do, right? And that's where most of the opportunity is. So the reason why I'm talking about this slide is because if you want to really grow in this career, you've got to find ways to be successful at delivering data science, digital solutions to people, right? And that's really what we call the long tail of our field. That's because there's so many opportunities, but it's the hardest thing to do. And so I kind of drew a little visual there, which, and it's probably a fair point, which is 20% of what you do is going to be the technical solution. 80% of what you will do is getting through some of these people-related barriers. And it's just part of, it's just something we have to, learn how to overcome. And I'll give you sort of an example, right? So, you know, during the, as a result of COVID, it created massive disruptions in our supply chain. And GM's mandate was to fill the pipeline, right? Because, you know, if we're not moving cars to dealers, we're losing money, right? Every day that happens, we're losing money, but we need parts to do that. And China was the first, like sort of ground zero of this, and GM is very dependent on the China supply chain. So as a result, you know, it was sort of, they developed this, what they called a crisis room, and everybody really rallied to come in and provide that service. What was interesting was that the organization was very dependent on, very smart, but they didn't have a digital infrastructure to the point where we could operate at scale. So our team was brought in to come up and stand up a solution. We were able to develop a solution in like 2 weeks. And Sarah was actually someone that we called in as a subject matter expert to help us with a part of the solution. So we rallied, we brought in all the right people, we got it done. If you can believe it, it took almost 3 to 4 months to get them to actually use the tool, right? And it was because we you know, because of the things that I'm listing here, right? And so 50-50 partnership, right? When you start a project, you know, you want to make sure that there's an understanding between you and your client that we're both in this together and we're both going to work on this together. In this situation, because it was a crisis, they didn't ask us to come. We were sort of forced to come. So automatically you have that disconnect there, right? Pull versus push. That's a term that's an important term, because a pull is a situation where they need you. A push is where you're trying to force a solution onto them. Pulls are great situations to be in because you'll automatically get that partnership, whereas push situations it's going to be an uphill battle, right? Managing resistance, the point that Sarah made, which is that it comes in many forms, and you have to have a very sensitive ear and a very sensitive eye to seeing these types of situations. Some people will agree with you wholeheartedly, but really they don't agree with you. Some people will disagree with you wholeheartedly, and it's only because they're afraid, right? Or some people feel like you're taking over their job, or you feel like you're, you know, their solution is good enough. Why do I need to change what I'm doing? I'm busy. In this situation, it was a crisis. Everybody is scrambling to try to get this thing done. Look at these guys coming into this room telling us to use this better tool. Who are you, right? And so that's a form of resistance too. So, and then again, coming up with realizing that sometimes you're not going to get the perfect solution, but if you can sort of win the battle, right? You know, maybe you lose the battle, but you win the war, right? That's the expression. So maybe you just get a good enough solution to build the trust, build the credibility, and then come back later with a better solution, right? And of course, storytelling. You know, many people are very good at developing technical solutions, but because they can't explain what they did, you don't get the leadership support, you don't get the buy-in, right? It's almost like this saying, like if you can't explain what you did in 30 seconds, you know, you sort of missed the window, right? So I will say though, you know, we started off in a tough situation because it was a crisis, but you know, we were able to get it to the finish line because we were able to, one, find an ally that was in the supply chain organization. So that gave us credibility. So they would sell on our behalf. Two, we took a step back because we really thought we had a great solution, but we realized that in order to get the buy-in, we asked our customer, okay, so what would you do? And so then the customer showed us their solution. And then we said, how you know, what situations does this work well? What situations does it not work well? And then we focused on the things that didn't work well. You know, they would tell us like it takes too long to refresh data. Bingo, we can help you with that. Oh, you know, like I can't see when a part is gonna go through a first out situation, right? Oh, bingo, we can help you with that. We can look at some sawtooth algorithms and help stand that up. So we try to focus on where they were starting from and help them in the way that they want us. And even though it wasn't the version that we wanted, at least we got our foot in the door, and at least it gets us to the next conversation, right? And then storytelling, we had many, many reviews at the leadership level, as well as at the manager level, as well as at the individual contributor level. And you tell stories in different ways. When you're talking to individual contributors, it's more technical. When you're talking to leaders, it's more about vision and where you're going and where are the roadblocks and what support do you need from them. So, you know, for those of you who are getting into this field, I really, really encourage you to go into this, find a good mentor, practice this as much as you can. Those of us who have been in this, you know, we didn't get to where we got to by ignoring these things. I can tell you that for sure. So, and so like, I know for me, I'm constantly practicing this. And I try to teach my team this, and I try to learn from my team in terms of how they have experienced this. I've read books, but to be honest, it's an art, and it's something that you develop over time. So, so with that, you know, if there's any questions, you know, please let me know. But I want to be respectful to everyone's time. This is an exciting topic, but thanks for giving me a chance to share this with you.
Oh, thank you, David. This is very important in our daily work. I see Stephen is back to the meeting room, but I don't see you in the video. I don't know if you want to continue your answers to the past questions.
Okay, can you see me, or can you hear me?
I cannot see you, but I can hear you. Yeah.
Okay, sorry about that. Yeah, I think that's a challenge that sometimes we face working from home.
Yes.
All right, I think I was telling, where did you lose me? Did you hear that what I said? I think really focus on the value we can bring to the customer on that piece, and I was trying to give an example.
Yes.
Yeah.
Start with your example. Yes.
Yeah, maybe I'll start with the example. So that was with the OEM automotive OEM company. I think so. We've been working with them for longest time as one of our earliest customer. We definitely, you know, with our team inside their organization, we saw there's a big opportunity leveraging the data from the manufacturing to sales and to after sales to help them improve the overall quality. So instead of having in the warranty data come in, normally it will be a month late after the customer reported issue. We you know, saw there's opportunity we could leverage the manufacturing data and as well as the repair order data, and some of those information we can consolidate and process that and predict you know, some of the issues they may see in certain region or, you know, certain specific vehicle model, etc. So we didn't really get that project by saying, okay, we have such capabilities of doing that, but you know, we saw there was a good opportunity to create a value for our client. I think it's the same everywhere for every client, that if for example I come to David and then Dan saying, oh, we have this capabilities, and you know, tell me what I can do for you, that's normally won't be successful. But if I get to know more about the client's problem, so we can say, you know, what we can do to help them solve that. And one big important factors in the data analytics or software development world right now is really looking at return on investment. You know, consulting sometimes it's I would say the price it's not a small amount. So we need to show, hey, what are the value, what are the either the quality issue we could solve, and there's a cost reduction, or some of the new data monetization that we can help our customer achieve. There's that return on investment we need to show to our customer. And so that's in somewhat, it's a vision or value proposition to our customer to buy into the project. But another point I do want to mention is that, you know, as data analytics, it's super popular nowadays, but it's also not that easy to implement in an organization. So it's important to have a vision, but it's also important to have a starting point and start something small. That's why we have a lot of proof of concepts developed with our customers, and starting small, start showing the value first, and then we scale out to a bigger project. So at the end of the day, what we're trying to achieve is a win on our client side that, you know, generates a new value or a cost reduction, and a win on their end users on have a better experience, a better service, and also on our side, as you mentioned, Sarah, it's a business development on the consulting team.
Thank you, Stephen. Jason, do you want to come to audience questions?
Yes. So far, I have received 11 questions. Some of them have some overlap and a common theme. So I will try to summarize them with fewer questions. The first question is from one of my colleagues at UM Dearborn College of Business. The question is, as a professor or educator, how do we better prepare our students to transform from campus to workplace? Okay, any of you can answer the question.
Dan, do you want to start with that? I know you are also working with the University of Michigan College of Engineers.
I'd be glad to answer that one. So I spent about 8 years or so teaching the senior design capstone class at the University of Michigan. I think that is the #1 thing you can do for students to help them make that transition. Let them see data that's terribly structured, has flaws, holes. Let them see problem statements that are fuzzy, incomplete, contradictory, and let them work through all those pitfalls so they can see the difference between a textbook example and what the real world brings, and really focus on the elements, the essence of math modeling, rather than throwing the most sophisticated algorithm at a problem. I think that would be the best way to prepare.
Yeah, that's a very good advice. Yeah, actually, in my teaching, I use examples, for example, for regression with R squared over 90% or with p-value less than 0.05. That's kind of too ideal. Okay, the second type of questions are regarding techniques. So in general, what programming language do you use for data analytics, or what kind of technical skills are most relevant and important for a starter in data analytics?
Maybe I can start, then I think Dan and David can add to that. So, I mean, as Umlaut, we try to be technology agnostic. So we're really trying to work on all technologies out there, all programming languages out there, but specifically on data analytics, on the advanced data analytics, then we use Python and R quite a bit. So that's, we've seen, a lot of companies are using that. But for a lot of our clients, they're not that advanced, they can have more advanced data analytics in their organization yet. So they focus more on the BI and some of the basic analytics. So we use tools such as, BI tool, visualization tools such as Tableau, Power BI, ClickSense, ClickView. Then also there's data prepping tools such as Alteryx. Those are quite some tools we've seen in the market. Yeah, so there's quite a bit of company also start moving to cloud solutions. So AWS is the most we've seen in the industry, and when it comes to data warehouse, solutions, Snowflake is another tool that we've seen industry, quite some customers are using that. So that's just to name a few things that we're seeing most common.
Okay, thank you, Stephen. The next question is regarding background. It seems all of you have either engineering or mathematical background. Some students, they don't have. They may have biology, chemistry, or social science background. And also some of them are pursuing bachelor's degree in data analytics. In this case, how do you recommend them to pursue their career in data analytics, or what do they need to prepare outside the classroom?
So I just hired a particle physicist, so I'd say anyone who's got mathematical understanding and flexibility of thinking is welcome in my department. Just having a bachelor's degree could be a severe career limiter long term. If you think about what you'd get in 1 or 2 classes unless you're committed to learning continuously. A lot of the stuff that was done by us manually when I started my career, it's automated nowadays. You hit a couple buttons and SageMaker or another similar application will do all that for you. So if you're at that level of training, it's going to be scary going forward unless you're committed to keep on learning. So I hire at all levels, but I'd recommend if you at all can, get a master's degree. Maybe not a PhD, but get the master's degree to get a leg up on the later technologies and never ever stop learning.
Okay, thank you, Dan.
And I think I just want to add on what Dan said. I think we definitely Umlaut side, we second that. We're not necessarily looking at, especially from the college hiring, we're not necessarily looking at what major you're in, what your experience, what do you have, in your past years of experience. We care really more about your ability to learn something very fast and to identify problem and problem solving skills. As I said, there's no specific set of technology we're using for to be technology agnostic. So we got to have people can learn very fast and adapt to our clients' needs very fast. So really, the background is not an issue.
Okay, thank you, Stephen. The next question is regarding your roles. It seems you are all holding managerial roles. Do you still do some hands-on analytical jobs?
I would say, I think the question was, do we still get our hands dirty and do analytical work? Is that the question?
Yeah, I think the question is just about whether you are still handling data by yourselves or purely do some management work.
Got it. I think for me, well, I think every manager will have a different perspective on this, right? But when you sort of get to a role when you're an analytic leader, you have to understand what's the best way for you to bring value to your company? What's the best way for you to support your team? Of course, it's always tempting to want to get into the thing that you love, right? Like you may be tempted to want to try out a new algorithm that, I have a colleague that sent me this library for AutoML, and it would be very easy for me to get lost in that. But the more time I take away from that, that's less time I have to do what I need to do to basically create the infrastructure and the customer base and the opportunities that my team needs to deliver value, right? So I would say, do the things that you love. Find the opportunities that you love. And if you want to be the type of leader that gets into the code, just make sure you have someone who can facilitate the other areas that a manager should be doing, which is finding future opportunities, right? But there's always a trade-off from my perspective. And it also depends on your team too, like what's their capability, right? Are they high performers? Do they need more hand-holding? And so it's a sort of a careful balance, right? It's kind of how I see it.
Yeah. Okay, thank you, David. I still have more questions coming, but due to time limit, I will forward one more question, then I will give questions back to Sarah. The next question is, do your companies quantify financial benefits for all your analytical projects? Are there cases where you find it difficult to quantify financial benefits?
Say we try to. Our ultimate goal isn't to give insights, it's to generate dollars, but it's very challenging sometimes, especially if it's a longer term benefit. So let's say we figure out a way to avoid failures on a piece of construction equipment. We just lost some spare part sales. Probably make the customer happy and they'll buy another one of our assets later on. After 4 years, 5 years, what are the odds? It's really tough to quantify that. So the key thing is to get directionally, is this good or not good? rather than to get down to the bottom line of the financial equations. Odds are almost anything we tackle can pay our salaries many times over. So that's not going to be an issue. The ROI is going to be huge or really huge. So let's just make sure it's not negative.
Yeah, if I could also add to that, I mean, I'm very passionate about that type of, because we as leaders and you as growing contributors will be tasked with that, right? So to me, there are opportunities where you can deliver a product, right? Let's say you deliver a new analytical model that allows you to quickly find all the locations of where all the Starbucks locations, and you can see it on your infotainment screen. And people download that for $1, right? You created that model. There's a direct return on that because it's very easy to quantify that need. But then you get into a situation where you're providing, for other situations, you're providing advice, right? Think about it. You're taking data and providing advice. How much is that advice worth, right? Because if the person you're dealing with doesn't take the advice, did you deliver value? And does it mean that it wasn't a bad idea, right? And so these are the questions that we're always tasked with. And it honestly really depends on the maturity of the company that you're dealing with. So I think that's a really important thing to kind of be mindful of. And sometimes you, as an analyst or a data scientist, you almost have to try to train your customer to thinking, to change the way they think so that they can change their process to be more streamlined or more transformative because you've delivered that solution, right? And so sometimes they don't see it automatically, and so you almost have to say, hey, you have this extra time now. What do you do with that extra time? You can forecast this cost now. Now that you can forecast this cost, what would you do differently? What investments would you make differently, right? That's value right there, right? So you almost have to kind of like learn how to speak their language, get into their mind, and and find a way to see how they think through the problem, right? And then say, is that valuable to you? Well, then how much is it, right? So it's an interesting field, always having to prove your value, right? But we're the king of insights, but never the decision maker, right? So.
Thank you, Dan and David, for sharing your perspective. I do have a question for Stephen. It is impressive that you achieved the partner position in less than 10 years in a consulting firm. Is there any secret to share?
Yeah, I'm flattered. Thank you. Yeah, there's really no secret to share. There's no secret there. I think it just, I think to summarize, if I look back, I think it's really important to have a career objective, whether it's for the short term, midterm, and long term, or so it's any of that. You need to have that on your mind. And in a lot of cases, I think I looking back, I appreciate a lot myself. Not wondering on what I want, trying to figure that out, but I have very clear, what I want to achieve. But also at the same time, do not try to, find a perfect position or find the perfect situation for your growth, but really to seize every opportunity in front of you or at hand to say, hey, what can I gain out of that? What can I learn from this project? What, some people may feel that, oh, hey, I'm not in a very good project or in a good team that won't help me grow. I think I try to stay positive all the time and to think, hey, what's really in front of me, what I can learn from the people working with me, right? And how can this project help me achieve my goal? So I think that's really important. And on top of that, you definitely need a very good boss, in my opinion. You need someone who can promote you, in the company, and as well as you need to have a very good team. And the good team part, I think that's reciprocal. You have to treat your team well. You have to, put yourself as part of the team rather than above the team, to work together with them to fight, and then so that's how your team would support you to get there. And in my word, also I need to have very good customers, of course, and to achieve that. So I really appreciate a lot of my customers really take a leap of faith on me, on my team to deliver the project. So it's really a combination of everything. It's really formed by those small steps then to where I am today. And I'm really grateful on all the people I worked with and all the opportunities I had, including this one, being able to meet you, Jason, and meet Dave and Dan, and also all the Inform members here. So as David mentioned earlier, and you can always learn something, from every opportunity, every chance, with the people around you.
Thank you, Stephen. Those are great advices, and it's easier said than done, to be honest. I also have another question for Dan. I think it will be a good conclusion question because you had experience working in prestigious firms, companies like GM, Dow, Caterpillar. You also have experience working in the analytics service provider. So how did you transfer your experience and knowledge from one area to another, from one industry to another? And do you have any suggestions for people who are wondering about which one to choose?
Yeah, so I'd say the mathematics is fairly transferable. What we did with cars, similar techniques have been going on for haircuts, paper towels, you name it. It's very similar. You do segmentation, you do forecasting, you do optimization, you plot the result. The details are different. The constraints are different. The objective functions are a little bit different. You've got to get the business context right. But you should really be doing that all the time anyway, even within a large company. So it's not that much of a difference. The timing and the impetus to deliver quickly and to sell is very different in the consulting context. You're always out there selling, trying to cut deals, get the next deal and expand. You do that internally as well, but it's really much more of a part of life, especially within a smaller startup type company that's trying to grow quickly. From a leader's perspective, though, my job, my output really is other analytics leaders. I develop analytics leaders. So whether they're helping design engines or price airline tickets, I'm making the same thing. I'm making an analytics leader, so it's very transferable, whether it's in consulting or at CAD.
Do you have a suggestion for students who are wondering which one to choose?
Given the urgency and the effort involved in it, I'd say do consulting early in your career because the hours are going to be long, the travel is going to be arduous. And once you get a family and want to settle down, it might not be exactly attuned to your tastes. A big stable company might be easier for your lifestyle. Now, not everyone will go that way. A lot of people stay in consulting their entire careers. A lot never go into it because they don't want it at all. So it really depends on what you want to do, what you like to do. Consulting gives you exposure to many companies. If you want to figure out where you want to go next, you'll have connections all over the place. So that might be another good thing for students at the start of your career to basically discover what you love to do, what culture appeals to you, what people appeal to you.
Thank you, Dan. Jason, do you want get to the closure?
I still, maybe we can go a little bit further to ask a few more questions. Are you okay with that?
Oh, sure.
There are still many questions, and yeah, there are some very interesting.
I do have a question for David. I know he has a great insights on when joining an analytics team, what are the key characteristics to look for?
Oh, sure. If you can go to that, there's a slide I put together there. So, I think Daniel and Stephen both kind of covered this. I mean, one thing that disappoints me is when I see someone join a new organization, a new team. They're super talented, super enthusiastic, but then they're bored. They don't have work to do. It's not exciting. There's nothing for them to do, right? And so and that's disappointing, right? And I feel like you guys are coming out of school, either you're coming out of school or you're working now, and that value you've generated, that's worth something, right? So really take the time to ask the right questions between the interviews and by the time you get the offer. You want to make sure you're really thinking about what matters, right? So for me, so far in my career, these are the things that matter that I've collected throughout my journey. But one, you want to talk to whoever, your hiring manager about how does your team bring value to the company, right? And really listen. Is it through people? Is it through machines? Is it through dashboarding? Is it through predictive modeling, right? Because, like I told you before, if you want to grow in your career, you have to show that you can deliver value. Ask them how they bring in customers, right? Like, what is their strategy for getting work? And you want to make sure there's like an intake of really interesting projects down the pipe so that you have an opportunity to practice your skills and develop your career. Some companies will have a centralized versus decentralized model, so you want to ask about that because, there are some pros and cons. Being in a centralized model will most likely mean that you have a career path, so you can get promoted and you can get into a manager level or a director, but decentralized means that every function is going to be doing it a little differently. So you want to pay attention to that, and your career path may not be as strong, but you have a lot more autonomy to create new solutions and you're close to the customer. So there's a good chance you'll be able to deliver better value. So you want to find something that's sort of a mix between the two. Also, you want to ask the group, like, what's their analytic maturity? If you're coming out of school wanting to design machine learning algorithms, but your group that you're joining is barely getting off of the descriptive statistics, that's a problem, right? And it's not going to be a right fit. You want to also make sure that your leaders understand your field. How can they grow you if they don't understand what you do, right? And can they speak your language, right? And so those are important cues to look for. And then the last one is development and growth, right? Like, you want to make sure that, hey, what type of leader do you want to be? What opportunities are available for you to grow, and how can you practice your skills, right? So I think Dan said it, right? Like, his purpose is to develop new leaders, right? And that's what you want to hear from your hiring managers, that they will invest in you and they will make you someone who can, basically be an evangelist of analytics and grow the cause, right? So thanks.
Those are really great advice when looking for a job. Thanks.
Okay, due to a time limit, let me ask just one more question. I try to pick a general question. The question is, how has working with different teams throughout your respective careers influenced the way you approach a project or a problem?
Yeah, I can start with that. I think so. I think it's definitely it's very beneficial to work with different teams, as you would see different people are thinking from different perspectives. That just make you more well around in thinking from who is really your audience when it comes to solving a problem. So I'll give you an example that when we talk about project opportunities with the senior leaders in the company at for example, director above level, I think we would focus more on the vision, the return on investment. But when we talk about the project with, let's say, the more of a manager level team, we would talk more about how we can achieve that. What are we going to do activities? So that's kind of you don't necessarily know that until you work with different teams, understand what they care about. What are some of the topics that you would discuss more with them, what would resonate with them. So I think that was definitely a plus if you could work with different teams and understanding what type of language that they speak, right? That's my view.
I'd say different teams, they can expose you to valuable concepts, both technically and culturally. So I still remember going to Europe one time for a conference, and I noticed that there was a difference in the style of their operations research, the way they solve problems. There was something different. It was like looking at a Picasso versus a Dali, both great, but there was something different about them, and you can learn from that. You just appreciate different ways of doing things. Non-technically, of course, you get to experience different business contexts, different priorities, different approaches to get things done. So I think it's extremely valuable. I'd actually value new hires who have experience with multiple teams more than just someone who's been with one team. So real asset.
Yeah. And I was thinking about some of the different dimensions of practicing with different teams. I would probably say, in addition to what my colleague said, try explaining what you do to someone not in your field, right? I think that's really good practice to see, you know, if you can help, you know, like, you know, help them realize the benefits of analytics without them even realizing that they're doing analytics, right? So that could be another way to kind of like build better context, better storytelling skills, right? So.
Thank you very much, the whole team, Steve, Dan, and David.